Hello, everybody watching and listening. And this is a special conversation that you are about to experience because I am talking to the Director of Public Safety for the City of Columbus, Mr. Robert Clark. How are you feeling today?
Good morning, Mr. Stowe, and good morning, everyone. I'm great. Thank you.
I appreciate you joining me today. And I understand that we are going to have a special event this weekend in the city of Columbus. We are hosting the Trauma Care Conference, and people may not connect trauma with the violence that's going on in the city. So can you explain the connection between that?
Sure. The theme of the conference is Healing Columbus. We recognize that there's been a lot that's happened in the city of Columbus, not just with violence, but with the pandemic, with social unrest, all of the things that we continue to experience. And because we've experienced so much in the last couple of years, we believe that our residents and so many others have really begun to normalize trauma and not even be able to recognize trauma in themselves and in their family and friends. So this will be an opportunity for us to talk about trauma and bring awareness, education, and ultimately direction and resources about what individuals can do who are experiencing trauma.
Right. And you have been in law enforcement for over 30 years all across the nation, but your roots are here in Ohio, and this type of event is something personal to you. So do you mind sharing that story?
It is. So I've been in law enforcement 36 years and counting. I started as a Youngstown police officer way back up in 1986, and it seems like a long time ago, but then it seems like yesterday. And I am the son of a murdered father. My father was murdered when I was 13 years old. The individual who murdered my father was never held accountable for that. So that continued to create like an open wound for myself and my family. And it's something I carried into my teenage years without really understanding what was happening to me, what I was experiencing, anyone that I could talk to, and just suffering through that trauma. And then eventually got involved in law enforcement and began to see trauma across the board and individuals that I dealt with and that I arrested, homes that people came from, children who were in homes where we arrested individuals or whatever the case may be. So I began to see trauma at a very early age and have seen it all throughout my career, both as a police officer, as an FBI agent, working internationally. I've seen it and I understand it. So that's why we bring to this conference the concept of healing Columbus and bringing awareness, education, and ultimately direction about what you do about it.
Yeah, and it's very, very valuable. And just because the health of the community is very valuable.
That's correct.
We're starting to move into warmer weather. We're seeing the weather starting to get a little bit better here, and people are wanting to get out and have some fun. But who is this event for, and why should we give up a possibly beautiful day on a Saturday to attend it?
Well, this conference is for all the residents of Columbus as well as the providers, because there's a lot that can be learned from us coming together to identify the various aspects of trauma, even the trauma that we have suffered as a society and a nation through COVID-19. Through the pandemic. We're on the tail end of the pandemic, but we're still, suffering through that. The numbers are going back up as we hear in the news, over the last couple of days. So we recognize that we're still continuing to suffer the trauma from that. Now, yes, we are getting ready to have warmer weather. Columbus is opening back up. We'll have festivals and community events and neighborhood events, which we're all excited about. But we also recognize that there's a trauma element that just runs like a thread through our community and through the lives of our residents. And we want to take an opportunity to bring health, healing, and restoration to our community and to our residents and make sure that we can focus on identifying what is trauma. Because as I said earlier, so many people have normalized trauma that they don't even recognize it in themselves and in their family members and friends. So we believe that if we can bring that awareness piece as well as the education piece and be able to bring those two things together, and then ultimately provide resources and direction. Where do I go? Who do I call? What program do I engage in? We believe that we can come together and have a much healthier Columbus, much healthier residents who can then begin to engage proactively and substantively in all the events that are going to happen throughout the summer and into the fall, and just do it from a much better perspective and understanding the value of community, coming together, supporting one another, encouraging one another, and really beginning to take back control of our neighborhoods and our communities and be able to decrease the violence and increase the quality of life.
Yeah, and I think this is happening at the perfect time, like I said, as we getting into better weather, as school is ending, as we go into the summer, we're going to probably see violence that just has that cycle of increasing during this time of the year. So to be prepared to deal with it and or prevent it is huge. And so as we do stuff for the community, we can't do it alone. With the community,
No.
you have to be is unit and community. So Sue, who are some of the partners helping you put this event on?
So we have a wealth of partners. Let me start first and foremost with Bishop Harold Rayford at the Church of Christ at 1200 Brentnell.
Yeah.
They are our host, a wonderful and beautiful campus that will be able to host this conference. We have Nationwide Children's Hospital who will be, Columbus Public Health, the OSU STAR program will be in attendance as facilitators, because we recognize that there are various aspects of trauma, which all three of these facilitators will be able to bring their expertise and resources to the residents and those who attend the conference. So this is a collaborative effort. We recognize that we cannot do this alone. And I want to make sure that we also understand that with the increase in weather and certainly the violence that is at record lows right now, we're at low numbers with violence in the city, because that's the work of the Division of Police, because we recognize that our women and men in the Division of Police and a wealth of other departments around the city are working very, very hard to decrease violence and increase quality of life. However, this Healing Columbus conference will give us the opportunity to bring these three facilitators together and be able to provide that awareness, education, and direction to our residents and to our attendees.
Yeah, and when we talk about the health of the city and being aware and being knowledgeable of how to identify trauma, there is a level of separation that we have to know too. And so because we all have experienced hard times, but we can identify those, but we sometimes, like you were saying, don't know how to identify trauma, and we will mix those two together. So what do you think, or what can you tell us is the difference between hard times and trauma?
Well, we all go through challenging times, right? Anything strong is forged in the fire. We all understand that. Yeah. However, it's the trauma that we suffer and the normalization of that trauma that creates this unhealthy space within inside of us, because we normalize what happens to us every day. And more importantly, we're not aware of the resources and programming that are available where we can call and get help. I'm an advocate for mental health, an advocate for getting help, not only for our community and our residents, but for our police officers and firefighters, our support services, making sure that we have a healthy workforce in public safety, but also that we have a healthy Columbus. Yeah. So this will be an opportunity for us to identify those resources, that programming, identify those numbers to call, places you can go and get that help and get those resources, so that we begin to normalize less of the trauma that has happened to us over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and it's like I just keep saying, this is something that is very necessary for not just this community, but communities really across the nation. And you don't see a lot of events being intentional of trauma being the theme. You see it as a part of it, or you might see it in passing, or someone might have a booth about it. But what is your hope to get out of this event?
Collectively, to be able to understand what trauma is and the fact that we have normalized so much of it, and then begin to reduce the violence in the city and increase the quality of life, so that we can, in a more healthy fashion, engage in all of the things that the city of Columbus has to offer. And again, across our nation, we recognize that we've been through challenging times. If we go back just the last couple of years, all the things that we've experienced, from social unrest to the pandemic, to job loss, money loss, individuals dying from the pandemic, we've endured a lot. So we recognize this is an opportunity for the city of Columbus to take a leadership role and be able to provide this conference, provide these resources, and more importantly, provide this conversation and provide this organic engagement in identifying what is trauma and then identifying those resources to be able to help our attendees.
Yeah, so these last couple of years have been not only tough on the world, but we see it right here in our city, like you were talking about with the pandemic, the social unrest, and we see that even when we were supposed to be staying inside, that violence was very active, and then it's still today along with the pandemic. So what is your message to those who are still concerned about the violence in the city?
Well, I would encourage them to understand that the chief of police and her executive staff and the women and men of the division of police are working very, very hard. They face some challenges as well with the retirements and other things that we have going on in regards to personnel. But we have 58 police officers who are going to graduate from the academy at the end of July. So those police officers will hit the street and be ready to go. We also have a lot of innovative programming and strategies that we are developing for summer, certainly to make our parks safer, because that's been a topic of concern. But I want to make sure that we understand that trauma does not only come in terms of violence that we see on our cities. I'll give you an example. The shortage of baby formula is causing trauma in families right now today. And to be able to engage in understanding what is trauma, and then providing that education and that awareness and those resources and the programming. And certainly the president and manufacturers are doing all that they can about the baby formula shortage, but that's trauma for families when you can't feed your children. So we recognize that there's multiple aspects of trauma that we're going to address this weekend. And I just encourage everyone to come out and be a part of the conversation, be a part of the awareness, education, and direction, and take advantage of the wealth of resources that are available in the city.
Yeah, and that's huge to expand the conversation beyond violence, because that's not the only avenue for trauma.
Right. I mean, Alan, if you stop by the gas pump, you're going to be traumatized. There's no way around that, right? So we recognize all of those things are aspects of trauma. Now, they may not be as severe as violence in the city, and I don't mean to make light of the situation, but I do want to bring to light that trauma comes in very different forms. So at this conference, we are going to address a multitude of aspects of trauma that we can within an 8-hour period. But this will be an ongoing conversation. These will be ongoing workshops, ongoing conferences that we will be talking about. We're going to be talking about later on this summer, what does de-escalation mean? What does de-escalation look like? So stay tuned for that.
No, that's huge right there. So just give us one more spiel of when, where, and how people can attend the event.
So the Healing Columbus Trauma Conference will take place at the Church of Christ at 1200 Brentnell Avenue, right here in the city of Columbus, hosted by Bishop Harold Rayford, in partnership with Nationwide Children's Hospital, Columbus Public Health, the OSU STAR program, and a lot of other individuals who will be there building into this conference, supporting this conference, all of our volunteers and donators who are supporting this conference, because they all recognize how important it is to bring healing to Columbus. So I just encourage all of our residents to come out and participate. You can go to the public safety website where the registration link will be there. It's free. Let me emphasize that the conference is free. Yes, it's going to be a beautiful Saturday, but it'll be a beautiful opportunity for us to engage in a conversation that can bring health, healing, and restoration to the city of Columbus.
Yeah, and it's going to be a nice part of the day because it starts at 8:30, right?
Yes, it's from 8:30 to 4:30. So, and lunch will be provided. So lunch is provided, snacks will be provided, and a robust, organic, substantive conversation about what trauma looks like, how we can help ourselves and help our family and help our communities.
That's huge right there. I think you got them hooked now. Snacks.
Lunch will be provided, and we got snacks all day long. So.
Right. No, that's good. But most importantly, the healing efforts of our city, of our community. And I just hope that, like you said, that this continues past this event, past the conferences, and actually is applied to our communities.
That's exactly what we're going to be doing. That's why we brought the facilitators in that we did, because we know that they will have ongoing program. They have the resources They have the personnel who are dedicated to trauma and trauma intervention. So that's why we brought those partners together, and we're all excited for this Saturday.
Awesome. The Director of Public Safety, Robert Clark, I appreciate you joining me today. Is there anything else that you want anybody listening to know? Anything else?
We just know that healing is a part of progress. So in order to progress, we have to heal. So this is an opportunity for us to begin that healing process while we continue to engage in the progress that is happening around the city. And just the festivals and fairs coming back is progress, but we want to do that in a very healthy way.
Man, that's a good way to end it right there. Mr. Clark, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.